Hello witches, it's Strigabella. I haven't made a video in a couple weeks, I think. And I have been just reading and ordering books. And I thought I would show you, now that some of the books have come, what I have been working on and reading. So, yeah, I'm kind of like taking on a lot of different studies all at once. And it's, I've been learning a lot, but it gets kind of frustrating when you go from one area of study to another, and I kind of like want to absorb it all. I don't know. It may be time where I need to get into some type of structured program, either online. I'd rather do some kind of course in person and have like a teacher to answer to, but I'm not sure that's going to be possible because of where I live. If I had stayed where I was up north, it would have been very possible because I was near everything witchy. But now there's really not a lot up here as far as options. I know there are a couple places that do offer coven and ritual and things like that, but it's not really anything that I think I'm going to learn from. It's more very, very basic beginner stuff. So yeah, but these are the books that I'm working on right now. I've been spending the majority of my time on this book. I got this a while back, and it's a workbook for personal transformation. I started to read more into astrology, and this has always been an area that I've been intimidated by because there's a lot of mathematical type of stuff that you need to understand to be able to do it. There's a lot to do with the angles, and you have to know what the degrees mean and stuff like that. But this book takes you through the process in a way that it's like you learn really basic stuff that builds on each other. So once you have a basic understanding of the simple stuff, it really lays it out in a way that you just build on what you already know. So in that way, I'm really catching on. I really understand astrology now in a way that I never thought I would. And now that I know it, I'm able to see its relationship in other things, many other things you wouldn't even imagine. Because once you know astrology and you know what planets are connected to what, it has its foundation, it's the way it's understood. It has rulings everywhere, like in your body, in food, in plants. You can use astrology to relate to pretty much all the areas of esoteric study. So I think that's really cool. And the workbook, if I can show you some of how it's set up, they give you all these blank pages. Like there's plenty of see, I've put my my own natal chart into it, and then I have ones where I've done other people's. I have several people's natal charts on some of the blank ones so that I can work on theirs. So there's plenty of practice, and it really helps you understand how the energies of each thing works and why. So it's really a great book for any of you who are interested in actually really learning this. And if you were intimidated, don't be, because I never in a million years thought I'd ever get interested in doing this. But it's really, really awesome. Okay, so those of you who have known where I was a little bit before this, I was working with the Dark Goddess, Dark Moon Mysteries. That was so healing, and it opened up a whole new area of study for me that I really didn't want to meddle with yet. But now I am reading all of this. I'm getting more into traditional witchcraft, old world witchery, cunning folk stuff, like traditional British witchcraft, and also like the old world Italian, which there isn't much written, and I did get some books on that, which I will get into in a minute. But this is awesome. I haven't read it cover to cover yet, but I have skimmed through. But this is the book that I really love. This is awesome. Well worth the price. Really good stuff in here. I really relate to his writing. It is very, it's just awesome. There's a lot of, the only thing I don't like is it's not very, it's not quite study oriented, but it does have stuff in here that no other book will have. It talks about things, and it gives practical advice. It's sort of like a book of parables for witches, but really, really good wisdom. Lots of advice, lots of truth. It's just, and it's a lot of it's based on questions that people have asked him over the years, and wow, it's just really good. I hope someday I can write a book like this when I'm older. My books, I do write, and I do have plans to hopefully publish books someday. But see, for me, I write and write and write, and I produce a lot. Like, I write, a good 100 pages if I sit down and write, like, in one big hours session. But I never go back and read what I write because I'm so critical of it. And so I'd rather just leave it be and then go back when I've matured a little bit. And my idea, my hope is that, I'll be matured to the level where I won't have that, critical spirit of myself, and I can really academically sit down and put all the things I've written into a cohesive whole. That's my hope. But, yeah, so this is an awesome book. I've been working on this. I didn't get this with this group of books. I got this a while ago, but as you can see, it's really thick. And it's kind of like if you have a whole bunch of books on occultism and, like, I don't know how to exactly word it, but kind of it's really high magic oriented, occultism. It's just all the different topics, and it's a lot of information. It has everything in it. If you want a synopsis of all the different, things like divination and, if you need the keys and the seals, and it's just a lot of information packed into one book. But again, I have a lot of other books that would probably add up to be this book, so it's kind of not anything new for me, but I guess it's nice to have it in one big book, rather than a million other little books. But for me, like, I'd rather have a few books that I really love and that I want to read over and over again. Like this Devil's Forest one, I would definitely take over this. But that's just me. It's more personal, It's like it's more experience with knowledge. And I think that's important. I think you can have all the knowledge in the world, you can study all these things, but if you don't have the experience and the personal advice that goes along with it, it's not the same thing. You can do all the things prescribed in a witchcraft book. You can go through all those motions, using the words, the names, the herbs, the movements, and everything. But if you don't have that heart and that belief and that emotion that comes behind it, it's not really going to do anything. You're going to be going through the motions, and I think that gets missed a lot. I'm reading this also, The History of Witchcraft. This is not written by somebody who has a positive view of witchcraft, but I will say they did this book from a unbiased perspective. It really does tell you the facts of different things that have been done throughout history regarding witches, and it's honest, although they don't seem to have the personal view of a witch. They do weed out some of it to say how silly that people would have, tortured people that way, or thought that, these little blemishes could have been teats that beasts were nursing from and stuff. Okay, the other two that go together were these two Franz Barden books, The Key to Kabbalah and Initiation into Hermetics. This one's supposed to go first. I haven't really got into them very much, but I did skim through both. And this is more psychology oriented. I looked through it when I got this when I went on vacation to Maine. It's like a new way of looking at psychology rather than just infancy, childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. It really breaks it down into many more things. It's got this like little map, and it kind of talks through the decades of life and how things have changed very much recently, where now people in their 50s have a long life ahead of them, and they have the ability to fulfill dreams and things that they otherwise in the old days would have never been able to think about. Even people in their 60s, they can travel, they can do other things, see the world. So I like that. It's got some interesting stuff. I'm pretty sure I found a section where they're talking about men go through menopause as well, manopause. And it was really interesting because it is true. Men go through hormone decline just like we do. They lose their sexual drive, and they go through kind of a midlife crisis, kind of like when we go through real bad menopause. And it's interesting. This is Solar Reunion. It's the idea of how our soul was split in half, masculine, feminine. There's different ideas on what reincarnation is, what it means, what soulmates mean, what it means to find your true self or the other half of yourself, and stuff like that. Okay, I also got The Witch's Craft. We all know and love Raven Grimassi. Hereditary Witchcraft. The books are good. They're informational, but I've kind of read all this stuff a million times. So, I don't know. I might not keep them. I have so many books. It's like insane how many books I have. If you should see my basement. Oh my goodness. I have so many books. It's like really ridiculous. I got a physical copy of this. I have an e-version or a PDF or whatever you call it on my reader. And I've met him a bunch of times. I went to the funeral when his partner died. It was really sad. Happened kind of right before he opened his shops and wrote the book and did all that. But his friend Sean was on the way to do it with him, and he has an altar to him in his one of his shops in Hex. But very good book. It's never people kind of he's seen differently than the witches in Salem. He's kind of like, for a while he was kind of like an outcast. Like people thought he was really nuts, really crazy, really flamboyant, and like how oh my goodness, how can you do this stuff? Like because he's really delving into the stuff that other people were afraid to kind of go public with. Everything in Salem up until this point had been very Wicca, because Wicca was considered non-threatening. It wasn't even called witchcraft, and so he was not afraid to kind of go out of the box. And but I think that's wonderful, and I love that. And I love that he sells things for hexing and things that other people necessarily wouldn't. And he and Lori Bruno are friends too. She's an Italian witchcraft type of person, and I think she writes some kind of review in the end of this. I've met her as well. She's a wonderful lady. She offered to take my best friend to have her I operated on if she didn't have a ride, because she wasn't sure she'd have a ride to get there. Yeah, so that's an awesome book. And then I got these two Buddhist kind of books, the Tao Ching and Wherever You Go, There You Are. These are just really simple Buddhist philosophy, kind of like little proverbs. They're all very good. They all make sense. They're just really about being at peace, at one, overcoming the flesh and the state of being in your body. And once you don't care about that, it's like all the peace and the blessings will come. Like if you want to be blessed or if you want to have abundance, give everything away. But he really makes you think with what he says, because at first what he says sounds crazy, but if you really meditate on it and think about what it really means, it's all very good wisdom. So I've never really got into studying Buddhism, so maybe someday I kind of will. I started listening to lectures by Alan Watts. If you guys don't know who he is, he's a psychologist, scientist, kind of variety of psychologist. He does psychotherapy and all that. He's dead now, but he was really well known. He had all these great philosophies. He believed that there's no such thing as science when it comes to the human process. We try to pretend that we can isolate these things and do studies on people, but really the process of being a person, the experience of being human, you can't ever isolate the factors. You can't ever do an unbiased experiment as you can do in a lab with, chemicals and things, because you have to isolate everything, and you cannot isolate humans' memories and feelings, and it's impossible. So he says that you can absolutely do therapy and you can help people, but you have to look at it from a different perspective. The science aspect is to understand how nature works and how the mind works and how the brain works. But on the other end, you have to know how the spirit and the soul and the emotions work as well. So you need some type of spiritual being as well. And he says that if you go too scientific or too spiritual, either way is going to drive you crazy, but you need to have a little of both and find that balance. And that people who are good at their job, at being therapists, kind of are doing an art, because you help people by understanding and empathizing, and you say the right thing, but you don't really know how you do it. You just do. There has to be an element of intuitiveness, and I just thought that's really a great way of looking at it, because I've always felt that way. I think that's why I've always been drawn to people like Freud and Jung. That's actually what made me switch my major to psychology. I just fell in love with it when I started to read about what those men believed. And it really resonated in my soul as being some kind of ultimate truth. But yeah, so this is what I'm reading. This is what I'm studying. I have so much stuff going on. It's like insane. Tomorrow is the full moon, and then it's Lammas. And I'm trying to build an outdoor table out of stone, which is a big undertaking. I have lots of stuff drying. I have flowers and eggshells and things taking over my house. And then also next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're planning to go on a camping trip. Yeah. So I'm borrowing a tent from a friend, and I have forced the kids to come with me. I was going to go just by myself with these two women. But I was a little bit afraid that if I did that, I'd come home and my house would be like so destroyed and I'd end up causing myself to ruin whatever piece I found on the trip. It would be wrecked by coming back to such a mess. So, yeah, so I'm trying to force them to come. I hope I can get as many. I know Kyle's coming, and Joy, and hopefully John. I hope nobody backs out, but I am looking forward to it because I really need to be in nature, and we're supposed to be on a river, and there's a pond there, and it sounds really great. There's grizzly bears, and this is a little silly, but a long time ago I decided that I would try to manifest something that was a little unique, so that if it ever happens, I would know without a shadow of a doubt that I was heard and answered. So you guys are gonna think I'm nuts, but I specifically said I would like to come upon a baby raccoon who has lost its mother and has no one else, so I won't like feel bad, and that I will be the only person available who can care for and love this little baby raccoon, because since I was little I've always wanted a little pet baby raccoon, or a raccoon to raise and have it be a little pet. I knew somebody who had one, and from what I hear, it was a wonderful, wonderful pet. He had it since it was little, and yeah, and I've always loved raccoons, love them. I have lots of cute raccoon stories that I will share for another time. But yeah, so I'm thinking, oh, if we're going this far out, maybe my baby raccoon chance might come. Wouldn't that be awesome if I come back with a baby raccoon? So I hope you guys are having a wonderful summer. It is so hot out here. You can't even go outside for like 5 minutes without being completely soaking wet. And that's it. So enjoy the full moon tomorrow. Maybe I'll make another video today if I have a chance. And blessed be.